Hey peeps, welcome back to my One Piece Straw Hat Crew rankings list thing. I'll just recap real quick because I had to break up the video because it was too long, last one. So far in my rankings, number 9 was Nami, number 8 was Usopp, number 7 was Robin, number 6 was Zoro, number 5 was Chopper, number 4 was Luffy, and now we're at the top 3. How does this list seem to you guys so far? I don't know. I'm pretty happy with it. I put a lot of thought into it. Now, I just want to put this out there. Spoiler warning. I might end up talking a bit about things that are going on in the manga now. I kind of did in the other video. I think I put up a spoiler warning at the beginning. I hope I did. Hope no one's mad. Anyway, let's get on with it. The top 3 of who's my favorite Straw Hat, top 3. Here we go. Number 3 is Frankie. Now, when I think about Frankie and his post-time skip upgrades, I can't help but get a bit giddy. Frankie's powers are technology based for sure. He's one of the tech people. But they're also Vegapunk's tech, you know? And there's just so much potential with what Frankie could be hiding in those giant's arms of his. Like, who knows? And I'm also going to count the Frankie Shogun in his power set. As obtuse as the design is, you can't say it's not handy. Frankie sitting outside during Punk Hazard was such a memorable moment for me. And seeing him keep Baby 5 and Buffalo at bay thanks to the robot's armor was great at the time. And like, let's not slide it, you know, Baby 5 and Buffalo, you could say they were like the weaker ones of the family in Doflamingo's family, but it was still impressive that Frankie held them off. But yeah, this just shows what excites me about Frankie. His powers are proportional to his engineering ingenuity. It was Frankie's builder sense that made him install a ventilation system. Yeah, I know it's a dumb thing to like pick up from that, but it's a statement for how much Frankie is capable of taking into consideration when he's building something. His creativity with tech is what ultimately will let him pull things you wouldn't think of. Power-wise, Frankie's got a lot of destructive potential between missiles, lasers, the Shogun, and yeah, how could I forget the nipple lights? Like, that's freaking genius, it's essential. And honestly, I think he's probably top 4 in the crew. I think he's the 4th strongest. And I'm not gonna lie, Frankie's goofy, he's pretty empathetic, he's pretty overly emotional, he's an overly emotional guy. But that's what lets him have the most ridiculous and funny fights, I feel. Frankie versus Senor Pink being one of the standouts. And speaking more on Frankie's character, it's little things that have really stood out for me, you know? Do you remember the time Frankie refused Luffy's offer to eat the Mera no Mi? It wasn't a big deal, but it's the implications. Frankie's an independent guy and he can think for himself and be direct and straightforward to the point. And I like that. His general portrayal during Dressrosa, barring the Senor Pink fight because honestly, that was just machismo and overdrive, showed how he interacts with his crew and how he respects them, and also how he cares about the little people who have, you know, a legitimately sad story. And yeah, I know he annoys some, but his passion and his general cleverness put him up there for me. I'm not too big a fan of his current design sometimes, but I like that he can change his hair, because at least it just shows his kind of personality. It's very volatile, very fun personality, and I'm very excited to see what he might do in the upcoming arcs. Another, like, you know, this is just another little line that I really enjoy. It's the little things that I really like. You know, when he said he was proud to be a Straw Hat after hearing the Zoe story, I feel that's like a legitimately Frankie thing to say, and of course he would say it out loud. I really like Frankie a lot. That's why he's my number 3. Okay, and now we're at the top 2. Oh god. So number 2 for me is Sanji. Okay, so now you pretty much know who's number 1. So yeah, I have my reasons, but before that, let's get to Sanji. Okay, so Sanji's MIA right now, but Oda promised us the year of Sanji, so my body is ready. So why do I like Sanji so much, and why isn't he my absolute favorite? Well, let's start with why he isn't my absolute favorite. It really comes down to one of the issues that I had with Nami. It's the way Oda handles him sometimes, but it happens way less with Sanji in my eyes. The biggest issue was when Sanji had a mermaid fountain nosebleed. Now here's the thing, I actually don't have a super big problem with that. I get that One Piece is a comical, lighthearted adventure manga, so having a gag turn into a bloody plot point is within the parameters for the story. The problem was that event kind of set the bar for how Sanji was going to be used in the future. And you know, it's actually really funny, a lot of Sanji's power development really sprung out from his gags. But I digress. In the post-time skip, Sanji's use cast him in a kind of more unimpressive light initially. For people that prefer Sanji over Zoro, it's a tough pill to swallow because really they're opposite with how they're being handled. Because while Zoro whizzes by most of his opponents, Sanji's constantly hitting a wall. In the Sanji versus Virgo fight, Sanji hit his limit when his bones were starting to crack. In Sanji versus Doflamingo, Sanji got caught by Doflamingo's string and was in trouble. Mind you, both fights had incredible reveals for Sanji. With Virgo, we saw how his expression of observation haki worked, and that he could relatively handle someone of Virgo's level. And with Doflamingo, he was acknowledged at the very least. Even though he got caught by strings, we have to remember those strings are tough to break in general. The point is, Sanji was being used to hype up these opponents for someone else to take down later. And I want to think that those two moments are going to balance out something epic that Sanji does later on in the future. Fingers crossed. And before I forget, let me just put this out there too. During Dressrosa, before Sanji left, he had some really impressive moments, such as taking out that sniper on the tower when he was out with Violet, with just his observation haki. That's impressive. And now on to what I like about Sanji. And it's really, Sanji's got principles and he stands by them. I know a lot of people rag on him not wanting to hit a girl, but at the very least he sticks to that principle. He will not hit a girl, and who knows, maybe there's a giant backstory to why he won't do that. We won't find out till, I don't know, midway into the year maybe, hopefully if we're lucky. And yeah, I know he falls for any woman, which makes that first principle worse, but his principles carry him through and through. And he's as ballsy as Zoro when it comes to his crew, and he's very tactful in pursuing what he has to do. Sanji had many standout moments throughout the series that Sanji fans love to point out, and with reason. Whether it be his time as Mr. Prince, his tracking down Robin to the train, his dealing with the gates of whatever in Ina's lobby, or his moment with Kuma and Zoro at Thriller Bark, which there may have been something to it, and we might find out in the future. Sanji's the one who shows that there are more ways to get the crew through danger zones without just fighting everything in sight. It's also this aspect of Sanji that leads me to believe Sanji will be a step below Zoro. But don't get me wrong, if Sanji fought Zoro 100 times, I feel Sanji would win 40 times, because at the end of the day, they're in the same tier, and fights work on a fight-by-fight basis. They're too close to power where every single time it's going to be this exact same outcome, And, again, I just want to point out, you're comparing Zoro, whose whole purpose is to fight, versus Sanji. Just by the way they distribute their time, Sanji's spending more time with his art, not his fighting. So it's not that incredible to think that one's physically more capable and the other physically stronger. And now speaking of Sanji's strength, Sanji's power set is definitely one of my favorites in One Piece. It's generally simple, but there's a grace in Sanji's fighting style that is really born from his steadfastness to his principles, I could add. Bonus points that it's based on a real life martial art too. Diable Jambe is such a cool concept, although I really wonder if friction was really that big a component of it pre-time skip. Right now I'm at the point I'm thinking it's haki based on what Oda's said about it and seeing how much stronger the technique's flames have become. But really, it just makes me more excited about how Sanji develops the power in the future. Like I mentioned before, Sanji's power spins off from gags. Right now we've got Hell Memories, which seems to be an extension to Diable Jambe, and then we've got Airwalk and Blue Walk due to him running away from the Okamas. It's what makes him so surprising. His powers could come from any external stressors. They could come from anywhere. And I think they're relatively high tier abilities. A standout moment being when Sanji freaked Capone out when he flew into the air to strike back with cannonballs on Big Mom's ship. The fact that someone would point out that they're in the air, it doesn't happen as often. Another thing, Sanji's been using Diable Jambe as much as Luffy's been using Gear Second, which makes me think he's got something else up his sleeve. And Sanji's expression of the observation haki is also very interesting, seeing how it reflects his woman-chasing nature, at least according to the way he describes it. I wish we could get more panels showing how the various characters see the world through their haki. We know how Usopp does, and how Kobe sort of does, but I want more. I want to know exactly what makes Sanji's works, And we're here. Number one. My number one favorite Straw Hat, if you haven't been keeping count. It's Brook. The good old singing bones Brook, the Hummer, the Soul King. Are you surprised? I don't know, I just have a soft spot for Brook. I can tell you from the get-go, I like characters that have a refined look to them. It's another reason why Sanji ranks so high, really. But yeah, Brook's really just my favorite. I like his tragic backstory. I like his gags, what with him just being a pile of bones. And more on this later because the gag led to a power-up. I like that him being a pile of bones could sometimes lead to advantageous situations. I like that he's the embodiment of his crew's dying wish, and that he so desperately wants to see Laboon. I like his kind of damaged view after living on that ghost ship for so long. And what I mean is Brook's outlook on life. It was really on display during his fight with the merman Zio, I think, on Fishman Island. His whole thought about grudges. Brook got very serious in that moment, and it just shows what goes on in Brook's head. Brook's been by himself for so long, you could easily assume this guy's got some serious affection for Luffy and the rest of the crew. It doesn't really come out too often either because Brook doesn't get that much panel time, but when it does, it's great. His outlook also plays into his dreams. In a crew where we have someone wanting to be Pirate King, another wanting to be the strongest swordsman, and one wanting to cure all disease, we have Brook just wanting to see an old friend to give him one last gift. Brook's motives are sublime, but they are so heartfelt in my eyes. Brook's also shown he can be pretty clever, and we saw that when he tricked Jola into thinking he was on her side. It goes to show there's more to this guy than when he isn't asking Gundura, you know? Now, I've mentioned a few things in these videos. I mentioned Brook's gags leading to his power-up, and I also mentioned when I was talking about Chopper that Chopper was one of two I felt were closest to awakening their devil fruit. Brook is the other one I feel is close. Reason being is that Brook's powers go far beyond his Devil's Group's initial description. We always get the gag of Brook being able to eat or being able to see despite not having the essential organs. In an SBS, I believe Oda said it was the Devil Fruit that enables those functions. But that's the thing, right? If Brook wasn't able to be revived into his body, then the Devil Fruit would have failed at its job description, which couldn't happen. So now Brook got a body that was held together by the Devil Fruit's energy, I guess? That put him in a place where he could easily tap into the nature of the Devil Fruit's energy. I'm struggling to explain what I want to say, but I think of it like a passive skill in a video game. The passive skill here is life function, or the functions necessary for life, except Brook tapped into those mechanics of how that passive worked and turned it into something where he can now pull the chill of the underworld out into the real world, thanks to the energy that keeps him alive. I also recently saw One World HD's video on Brook, and I'm just hyped. Brook's ice powers were the biggest what the heck post time skip, and also coupled with his musical illusions and his general swordplay, I'm so excited to see what we'll see from Brook in the future. I wish we could get a bit more explanation on how his powers work, but this is One Piece, not Bleach, so we'll probably get hand waved in all honesty, but I'm hopeful. And that's why Brook's my favorite Star Hat, really. He's got a solid personality with possible dark quirks to it, and his powers have a lot of room for growth. And of course his laugh is great. I just really love the guy. Sue me. And peeps, that's pretty much my Straw Hat ranking. The top 3 really spun out into a lot of discussion, so I'm glad I decided to break it up into videos. But what do you guys think? Who's your favorite? What do you think about my list? Anything you absolutely can't stand? Just type away below, and thanks for watching. I had a lot of fun making this. I'm not sure how long it'll take me to edit. But hey, have a great day, peeps.